this is business law, okay? And like you mentioned, almost 45% of our student base is law student and legal professionals.
Yes.
So why? I mean, someone who is doing a 3-year or 5-year degree course, or someone who has been practicing, how is this course going to change anything for them?
Right. So I'll once again begin with the kind of lawyers and law students that we've seen in this course.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have litigators who are there from I think around 6 to 8 states. We were pointing out
Yes.
from Karnataka High Court, Rajasthan High Court, Delhi High Court, and the trial courts.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have associates working in law firms such as Amarchand, AZB, Khaitan, and there are associates in smaller law firms. And we have law students from national law schools across India, all the national law schools, NLS, NALSA, NUJS, NLU, and from other colleges, GLC, very reputed colleges in their own city, like GLC, Amity. They are in the top 10 in India.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Christ Law University. So, Pallavi, what was the question?
Why? I mean,
why are
if
they
they're already studying law,
right.
What is it that is lacking there that we are trying to fulfill from, or we are fulfilling from our course?
So the 3-year or the 5-year course that follows a certain syllabus that has been mandated, right, by the ECI, and this is a syllabus which is not updated. It has only the theoretical subjects. So you will not have a foreign investment course in that. You will not be studying bank loans, or how actually employment agreements work, or you will not study how to what are the rules by which government procures goods and services from private parties. So there are a lot of things, even securities law updates on that. So the syllabus is very theoretical and it's not updated. So what happens is,
when you say not updated, is this a normal pattern? Is this something that it's not updated for the past 2 years?
It's not been significantly updated at least for the past 20 to 30 years.
That long?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 50 years back, you would still be studying the Indian Contract Act, Indian Partnership Act, Companies Act, and that's what you'll be studying today. Okay. So there have been so many new branches of law: insurance law, telecom related disputes,
FDI, I think is
FDI itself. Yeah. So all these emerging areas of law, these haven't been captured into the mandatory component of the syllabus. So you have on and off, you will have one law university which is teaching it in an optional course. But again, the key difference there is that the people who are teaching you, the faculty, is required to have minimum qualifications. They have to be PhDs or LLMs to have taught them. And a lot of times what happens is that practitioners do not have these qualifications. So practitioners can't teach, which is why your learning becomes theoretical. So if you learn about FDI, you learn about foreign investment, you might just study the Foreign Exchange Management Act. You might not study the latest rules, regulations, drafts, formats, practical processes in terms of timelines. What is the timeline for a particular process for making a particular filing? Now these things are almost always thought of as very routine and skipped in a course. And these are the things that a client finds to be most important. They don't care about theory. A client does not care about what the section says. Okay, he wants to know how he can get something done.
Can you give an example?
So let's say a client is an Indian company is receiving foreign investment. Okay. From an investor based in US, and it wants to understand, what is the filing it has to make when it gets the money. What is the filing it has to make? Where it doesn't have to make that filing. Then when it gets the money, it may have to issue some shares. So what is the price at which it will issue the shares? What's the governing regulation for that? What is the procedure? Does it need a certificate from a CA? Okay. And how much time should the shares be issued in? And on an annual basis, is there some regular compliance required? So these kind of issues are not focused on in a theoretical class, and that's what we see in the 3-year or a 5-year law course. Because teachers are conventionally, they are academics, so it's very difficult to get practitioners to teach. You do, however, have an occasional guest lecture from somebody who is, arguing at the court or in a law firm. Okay, but these are very rare and these are unsystematic. So there is very little consistency in the topic. So if I heard some lecture one day for 1 hour, that does not mean I learned all of FDI law.
Of course.
The person who actually gave me that lecture has been practicing on that area for maybe 7 to 10 years.
Yeah, and has only been given 1 or 2 hours to talk about it.
Yes. So in our course, however, it's not like that. We give them access to detailed content lots of webinars on the same topic, on different aspects of the topic. So it actually makes them focus on this. It's not unstructured, unsystematic.
Okay.
It's not like a conference you just attend, you listen and go back. There are takeaways. There are very clear takeaways you have.
See, I would like you to expound more on the practical skills that we're talking about.
Right.
Because many times I tell people, that you'll be learning how to draft contracts. You'll be learning about, investment laws. Then they say that all these things are there in our syllabus also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everything is there in the syllabus,
okay.
Which is good.
True.
At least for FDI and other aspects that you mentioned, insurance laws and everything, they are not there in their syllabus. So till that part, yes, they agree. But whenever it comes to the basic concepts of contracts, of investments, of company structure, business structures, their first answer is we already have it in our syllabus. Right. So why should we come here to learn these things? So how are we differentiating the theories from the practical?
So what they mean, Pallavi, is something different. What they're actually saying is, they have studied Indian Contract Act, they have studied Indian Partnership Act, they have a subject called company law, where they study about the Companies Act. However, the thing is that they will study about what are the provisions of the Indian Contract Act. They would not have drafted a contract in college. They may not have seen real contracts.
Okay.
They will not know, for example, that when a startup goes to an investor to discuss a prospective investment, when any company, not just a startup, the first thing that you need to have in place is a non-disclosure agreement.
Do they know how to draft a non-disclosure?
They do not know how to draft it. They do not even know that it is required at that stage. They do not know what is the importance of the agreement and what it should contain.
Right.
Okay. So these are the things. This is a practical application of contract law that you have. Or when you see two people starting out a new business, can they actually guide them on which is the most optimal business structure for this business?
Right.
Can they say whether they should opt for a limited liability partnership, whether they should opt for a company, or whether they should just go for an ordinary partnership?
Right.
Okay. Can they, once this decision is taken, then what are the processes to get this started?
Yeah, I think right now, what is the role of a lawyer is limited to, or what they assume is limited to while they're still in the classroom, is that they will just have to do the procedural part.
Right.
For example, if someone has decided that I want to incorporate a company, how to do it is something that maybe a lawyer would do.
But even that, they do not learn that. They do not learn that in college. They do not know how to start a company. They do not know how to incorporate a company.
Okay. So what does a law student or law graduate do actually for a company?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So what's understood is that once they graduate or when they intern, they will learn all these things. And all these things have been learned. These skills have been learned through practice traditionally.
Okay.
So you go to a law school, you study, and then you actually start. When you start working, you learn. Okay, but this actually is not working today because for a very simple reason. When you're actually going to an organization to intern there, you're going for an internship for 1 or 2 months. Okay, 2 months is a really long internship. Very few people do that. Now, for that little time, nobody is going to invest in you and teach you things from scratch. There's a certain level of knowledge and skills they expect from you. Okay, or otherwise they will give you very basic work, which you will not understand what's the point of that work, how it's contributing to the organization. And most people find that they've got the best internships in the best law firms, and they end up realizing that what they're doing is really boring. And that makes them conclude that corporate law is not for them, without even actually having tasted it.
Yes, that's right.
And when you graduate, then you realize that the expectation is so high, and because you don't have that skill set, people tend to struggle a lot. So the acclimatization period is very long in a corporate law firm job. Whether it's tax law, securities, or intellectual property, it takes about 2 years at least to acclimatize yourself to the setup. And most people quit before.
Right. See, in many, thanks for pointing that out, because in many of your articles, I remember reading, like you keep putting up, you have mentioned a very deep importance on the learning that a person, acquires from business laws and the practical implication or application of the business laws. I think this is what you're talking about, that when people start working in a company or they start working in a law firm, the idea that they had that this is what we will be doing is very different from what they actually are required to do.
Right. And when not only do they have a completely they do not have an idea of what will be expected of them. Okay?
Okay.
Which is why they often fail to appreciate the importance of what they are doing and how to go about it.
Okay.
So I was talking of practical skills, for example. So I was talking about drafting real life contracts, okay, or negotiating. Now, negotiation cannot be taught as a single subject. You can't just learn how to negotiate. You have to be negotiating something, right?
Right.
And when you're negotiating something, when you're negotiating with me, whether you want a walnut muffin at a particular price, you have to know the attributes of that muffin. Right?
True.
So when you're entering into an investment agreement, for example, you need to know what that investment agreement is all about. What is the thing? What are the key points and the tricky areas which you need to negotiate before you can even start?
Right.
And that's when you start the process of give and take. Okay, so these are the practical skills we're talking about. We're talking about when to know what is required, when to go about, how to go about negotiating these, and how do we test these online is by actually first familiarizing them through this process.
Right.
And then through the discussion groups and through exercises that we give, we are able to test our students on how this applies. And students end up testing their own selves when they're actually interning. So they learn from this course and they realize that when they're interning, they're actually applying this knowledge to actually perform better at internships because they have some more guidance on how to go about their work.
Do you have any case studies to show? I mean, of course, our students would want these things to be anonymous. But any feedbacks and testimonials that people have come back with, which has made you feel, of course, because you're the one who is working around the content, around the clock. Anything from the student side which actually made you feel that yes, the objective with which we started this course, especially for law students and lawyers, is being fulfilled?
Yes, actually, I've got some pretty encouraging feedback, and I will tell you about it. So there is a person who is actually working in one of the top law firms in the country, and like AZP and Amazon, and they have said that she said that she's actually whenever she gets work in her firm. So when she started working in the firm, she started using our study materials as the base, as the knowledge base from which she started for. So while other people would just Google and try to figure out what the work is, she knows exactly what to do. She'll refer to a particular chapter in the study materials and from there start her work.
That's right, that's structured.
Yeah. And there is another law graduate who actually refers, sometimes he has been advising clients and he wants to just do a last minute check whether what I'm saying is correct or not. Or, is there a new idea, a new angle I can put on this? And he refers to the material for that on his BlackBerry. Then there is recently a litigator who said he has a good litigation practice. He's an independent practitioner. But because of what he has learned in this course about structuring businesses, LLPs and companies, he's actually been able to develop, to understand how he can advise clients on the commercial side. Okay, and is doing business development on that front as well. And he's actually now organizing foreign trips.
Okay,
to do business development for himself. To help foreign clients enter India.
That's
and develop relationships with them.
That's great. That's great. See, I know that our students, the takers of this course, like you rightly mentioned, have been from the best of the law schools in the country. But every time
that's not a requirement. I mean,
that's not a requirement. Exactly. But that's the thing. When people think, whenever I talk to a person who is from a national law school, okay, the first objection is, I'm from a national law school.
Yeah.
My college is going to equip me with all the skills that I need before I enter the real world or the corporate world. How do you work around that? Because me telling them that we already have these many students, and that's the proof that yes, even though a national law school is providing the best, it is providing the best in terms of the theoretical side. But even the practical side, there is something still missing, or just this thought process that you need to continuously work towards attaining excellence in whatever that you want to do. How do you work around that?
So that's a fair point that a national law school student could think that because he's in a national or she's in a national law school, there's a systematic placement program, so recruitments should be settled, and there should be no add-ons that he requires. But unfortunately, what a national law school really teaches you is academic rigor, the analytical process. Okay, so those are some skills it gives you. Okay. But what it is still not doing is giving you enough exposure to practical problems which will help you address clients' issues. It's giving you some of the skills. When a client comes to you with a problem, you will have analytical skills. Okay. But what subject will you analyze? Okay, if you've not learned about FDI in detail, maybe you got a you got a glimpse of it in an internship, but you still don't know how it works.
Hmm.
Instead of FDI, is there another way, to take a loan, for example, to raise finance for the company?
Yes.
Okay, so those alternatives you're not thinking of. So you will analyze only when you have enough food for thought, right?
Yeah,
When there
that's
is no
true.
food for thought, what will your analytical powers do?
That's true, that's true. And see, rightly said, people usually think that they learned in internships.
Yeah.
So there are two, as long as you're in student life, the particular individual will only look at two sources for any kind of learning. Either their alma mater, their college, that yes, my college is going to provide me with everything that I need
Right.
to become a good professional.
That's a good hope.
Secondly,
That's a good hope.
that's a good hope, yes.
Yeah.
But an institution can do only as much.
Yeah.
You know.
There are systemic constraints, and what happens is that once students realize the reality in internships, they end up being demoralized. So that is something, if they are prepared in advance, they will not face that resentment. And the other thing is that even for National Law School students, opportunities have greatly have reduced. Okay.
How there's something
Recruitment is not
about the legal, industry that you wrote about.
true.
Something to do with how the jobs are churning out in the law firms, and how the number of jobs that are coming out are dropping.
So the nature of legal work is rapidly changing, and there are a lot of smaller businesses that are coming up. And earlier you would have a lot of private equity investors, billion-dollar deals, which have sort of slowed down. Okay, and a lot of the top law firms used to specialize in that. Because of the slowdown in such deals, the recruitment and hiring processes also have slowed down.
Okay.
The bonuses have been reduced. So recruitment is very limited now. So what is required today is that a law student needs to build his own skill sets. The nature of business is becoming different.
Okay.
Lawyers are not being able to price themselves as much, as highly, because the clients are not willing to pay so much for that kind of service. So lawyers need to really reskill themselves, and they need to do that before they actually enter a job. And a lot of them need to start doing this and start carving out their own niches. So which is where this course steps in.
Okay. So internships also will not be able to provide you with all the skills that you're looking forward to.
No, unfortunately not. So they will give you some exposure, but the best way to go about it would be to have the right kind of base, the right kind of launchpad, which you can leverage in your internship. So we've seen that, there are a lot of students who've actually gone through the course and then interned at a law firm. And they've actually said that what they learned was so helpful that they did better at an internship. So that's how you can leverage this. You can actually perform better than your peers. You can learn more. And everyone at a law firm, somebody will be really impressed if you have some additional skill sets, or if you know much more than somebody else. If you can actually talk business law to an associate or a senior associate.
Yeah, which is not expected.
Which is not expected.
In the past 20 years, the kind of talent that has been churning out. Of course, there have been exceptional people. I'm not discounting that. But what's the employability rate here? Almost a lakh law students graduate every year.
True.
Right?
Or around 89,000.
Right, 89,000. Okay. And how many of them actually get placed because of the right skills that they have?
Law firm jobs are probably 2,000, 2,500. Okay, and that includes all the law firms, like even small, medium-sized and smaller law firms, right? And so a lot of lawyers, they are unemployed, and they are forced to start independent practice, where they're looking for ways, to generate sources of revenue, and that's where these skills become important. And they are open to using their skill sets in different ways to provide legal services. But traditionally, the way has been to fight, let's say, a matrimonial case or bail applications, and this opportunity has not been looked at so far. But people are now realizing that this is important and this can work for them.
Yeah, also the opportunity to work for the startups and SME community. I think people still don't realize that there is a world beyond just law firms.
Yes.
There are, of course, what do you call that? Legal counsel in a company?
In-house corporate jobs.
In-house corporate jobs, yes. There is, I think that is rank number 3 when a law student usually looks like what job profile he'll be looking for after graduation.
True. And so now there are a lot of opportunities to work independently with startups, incubators, smaller investors, which and advise clients on a periodic basis. And this
which requires a completely different level of skill set.
True. And so those skill sets people usually develop after 2 years of experience or so. And these these kind of opportunities, if a student is aware of these, you will start. You can start capitalizing on them by helping your friends and your network from your student life itself, which gives you much more exposure than even an internship.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I tell people, because many people have called and asked me, and I have spoken to many of their parents also. That my son or I am, only in first year or second year. Don't you think it is too early for me? Although many people have surprised me, many students who are just going to appear for their CLAT, they have already enrolled in this course.
Okay.
So this is the mindset that I see, that if you've decided to be a lawyer, might as well be a good one. Otherwise, don't be a mediocre one. If you're going to use the same standard concept and have come out as the same standard, you heard the concept of GIGO, right? GIGO, garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
So I'm not saying law schools are garbage. I'm just saying whatever if the input is the same, the output is going to be same once again. So how do you differentiate yourself? You start early in your career, depending on what additional skills you will need, depending on the kind of internships that you will take, and then leading it forward to, of course, the day when you will finally put your CV in front of someone.
So the way it goes is that if you research anywhere, you will find out that it requires 10,000 hours of work on any given area to establish expertise there.
Okay.
And conventionally for most law students, it is starting after their 5th year, once they start working.
Okay.
And so if you see how it goes around when you actually rewind, and you start this 10,000 hours in your first or second year itself. Okay, you will be in a completely different position once you graduate.
Right.
And so what happens is you might have already got that 2,000 or 3,000 hours of expertise beforehand. And when you're required to do that in 1 year itself, or in 6 months of your career, then that's when all the burnout happens. And people are not able to handle it, they're not able to understand what to do. So that can be completely eliminated.
No, but if I want to tell people this thing, when is the best time to take this course?
Right.
When will you say that? Because in my eyes, there is no best time. The earlier you do it, the better. But how would you put it?
So I've seen most people thinking that let's postpone this course to the time when we study corporate law in college. Which might be the 3rd year or the 4th year. The problem with that approach is that even after you study, your internship will not be based on when you study corporate law in college. A lot of students intern in law firms in the 2nd year as well, because there's a lot of competition and people want to have an edge. Right. And the second thing is that in your corporate law class, maybe you might not have great faculty, or you may just learn theoretical aspects. Right. So you want to mix that theory with practice also. So our course has that requisite amount of theory you need to understand practical aspects. So which is why we recommend that the earlier you learn, the better. The reason for that being that you will be able to capitalize on your experiences after the learning of this course. So you learn something today, tomorrow you read a business newspaper.
It's like building blocks.
It's like a building block.
Step by step.
So that process starts much earlier. Right? So you will not say that I should start being employable only in my 5th year. I should be employable from my 1st year onwards. I should work in that direction. And this is what that course will help you do.
Okay, good. So this is for the law students. I think I have covered the major, the primary questions that I usually get.
What about litigators?
Yeah, so going to the professionals now.
People
who are already working. There are many people with 4 years, 7 years, 15 years, 20 years of work experience. Okay, the range is very vast. So why do you think, or how do you think the course is helping them?
Let's see what are
we always want to do. This is no accident. I want everyone to understand that this is no accident that lawyers or working experienced legal professionals are benefiting from the course. But still, there are many people who are still thinking that I'm already experienced. I don't need additional knowledge.
Right.
The thought process that I'm perfect in my own, I don't need to do any more learning.
Right.
So how does this course contribute in that?
So I'll first explain the kind of legal professionals we see. There are associates in law firms. There are associates in law firms. There are independent litigators. There are lawyers who are working with companies. There are senior lawyers also. Now there are people who give independent practitioners with 15-20 years of experience. Maybe they've been advising on a particular area of law, but not business law. Or maybe they've been advising on only company-related laws, but not on, let's say, employment law or investment law. Just on company formation they've been advising. But now they want to learn import, export, tax. They want to learn, how law and management can meet, and where they can create a legal service out of that. Or they want to help clients in bidding for government tenders.
Right.
Okay. So if they want to develop these skill sets, then this course is like a comprehensive platform for them to develop a wide variety of skills. Even if you see a corporate lawyer or a tax lawyer, so if you see a corporate lawyer, he would have worked on a certain area of law, and he will develop expertise there. So a capital markets lawyer will know only about capital markets over the course of 7 or 10 years that he's working.
True.
Okay, but he will have no idea about import export. He will say that go to a law firm which specializes in those kind of areas.
It's about expanding your expertise.
Exactly, it's about expanding your expertise, and a lot of times clients do not want super specialists. They want generalists who can actually give them a service which across different practice areas.
Right.
There will be a businessman who will just say that I am setting up a business which will be an import-export. Okay, and I need everything to get my company kicked off. So he will have to think about import-export licenses. He will have to think about company formation. He will have to think about employees. Everything all under one roof.
True.
So you need to have a broad base at least.
And
that's how these people are using it, because they are either using it to supplement their skills and to be able to add newer kind of value to clients. Some of them want to change their profile. They might want to move from an in-house counsel position to a law firm, or they might be exploring ways to go independent. So when you're independent, you want to have as many sources of revenue as possible.
True.
So business laws is a great idea to generate. Developing expertise in business laws can be a good way to generate resources, especially when the areas are so many.
True.
From insurance to corporate law, you're learning just about everything.
Right.
To intellectual property, information technology.
Yeah, it's just like creating a whole basket
of
offerings instead of saying that I can only do one thing.
True.
And I think that will also help you, because the minute you understand how the basics work, it also helps you in connecting with people.
True.
There are many times when I have seen you or Ramanuj, in a party or in a social gathering, the person starts mentioning a particular situation in the business, and you guys on top of your head are able to provide a solution or more ideas to it. And that's how, even if, for practicing lawyers, that's how most of the conversions will happen.
So having these skill sets actually helps practicing lawyers in inspiring clients' trust much better, because they are able to appreciate the situation and the problems that their clients are facing.
Yeah, that my lawyer understands what I'm going through. Makes a lot of difference for me. It's like a doctor.
True. And of course, be more impressive in client meetings. Apart from being able to deliver.
Right, of course. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. So these were the things.
Okay. Many international lawyers are also taking up the course.
Many
from US, Europe,
Middle
East, Africa. Many people are taking up the course.
Right.
I think few from Australia and Canada have also taken it.
LLM students as well.
Yeah, people who have done their LLM from abroad are once again coming back and taking up this course, or even if they are still there, somehow they get to know about the course and they are enjoying being part of the course.
Africa also, did you?
Yes, Africa. So, what's the correlation there?
So there are many reasons that international students would want to take this course. One is that there are a lot of international clients targeting India at some point of time or another. Okay, so they want to develop that expertise where they can advise a foreigner on something about Indian law. Okay, so which helps them enter the Indian market. The other reason being that there are a lot of the legal systems in the common law countries are similarly modeled. Okay, and in a lot of countries,
for example,
so let's say you might have an African country which has a similar legal system as India. Okay, the laws will not exactly be the same, but they will have one separate law for companies. They will have certain types of companies which are similar, or they will have a separate exchange control regime which is similar to Indian foreign exchange laws. Okay, so they are modeled along similar lines. So when somebody is studying this statute or studying these laws, they will actually be able to create similar compartments. Okay, it's like learning two languages. Sometimes two languages are so similar that you've learned one language, you can easily pick up another.
Right.
Okay, so in these countries, sometimes you do not have enough you do not have an education system which is giving you those practical skills. Okay? But you can understand the system in that country much better if you know a similar system, how that works at the ground level.
Okay.
So these are the reasons why you see people taking up from international countries. Apart from, of course, being directly able to advise clients.
Okay. So does it mean we'll soon be able to offer international placements also for our students?
Let's see where that goes here, because if you have the right, a lot of times in foreign countries,
yeah, because we can see there's a requirement. Right? We already know that there's a requirement and there's a common ground.
So if that is a managerial, or if that's a managerial opening, or it requires legal qualifications from India, that kind of a placement opportunity is available to them. Okay. But if they want to practice as a lawyer in that country, it would of course be subject to the laws of that country. For example, UK will require you to have taken specific exams.
Right.
But if there's an opening for a manager and the company wants someone who has expertise in Indian laws, and the person has taken this course up, he will be better suited for that position.
Okay, great. So one last question before we move on to our entrepreneur segment. I think most of them will be already online, and if you guys are online, I really request you to please stay put, be a little more patient. We'll just wrap up the segment of law students and lawyers, and we'll move on to our section for the entrepreneurs. One last question, what should our law students and lawyers look forward to in the course now?
Okay, that's quite open-ended.
Yes.
So I think the first thing they should look forward to is a lot of excitement, a bigger network,
okay,
amazing content, which can actually engage them.
Okay.
And
any latest affiliations or associations that you're working on?
So we are working on a much deeper collaboration with India's best law firms and government officers. So we have these webinars which are becoming much more frequent. And we've also started carrying out webinars on non-legal topics, because we've seen how much time a lawyer is actually spending doing work which is not strictly legal.
Yes,
he's not analyzing a statute or creating an advisory note, but he's actually working with a team or servicing a client. He's actually networking.
Yes, those webinars we were planning together, focusing on the soft skills of an individual.
Exactly.
Every lawyer or every legal professional should be able to market himself or herself.
Yes.
Should be good in organizational skills. Should be good in communication skills. You say dispute resolution, but there's a technical aspect attached to it, and there's a behavioral aspect attached to it. So we have been planning a couple of webinars already for our students.
Yes. So those are the things we've already had some of those.
Yes.
And we're planning to focus more on these as well going forward. So this is a kind of an addition to the course.
All right.
We already had a webinar on financial planning.
That's true.
Which was to just brief people with how to go about making a financial plan for your business. A very important skill which lawyers appreciated, because when you start out independently or when you start hiring juniors, then you need to do this, at least at an elementary level.
Okay. Good then. Anything else that you would like to share?
No, I think I'm good.
You're good? Okay. So, I believe I have covered all the questions, but if there is still something remaining, all of you know my number, all of you have my email address, just drop me an email, or better, just give me a call.
What's your email address? Pallavi@ipleaders.in.
Pallavi, PALLAVI@ipleaders.in. Yes.
And they can call you on your number. I think that goes on all the emails.
Once again, it's 095-826-30056. That's my number.